The secret that shook Madison Square Garden. For days, nobody outside that building really knew what happened when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce turned Madison Square Garden into the most guarded wedding venue in America. But now, the details are finally coming out. And one thing is clear. This was not just a wedding. This was a cultural earthquake wrapped inside NFL royalty, pop superstardom, and a level of secrecy usually saved for championship game plans. It started in the afternoon, when black SUVs with tinted windows began rolling toward Madison Square Garden. One after another, they disappeared behind white tents, hidden from cameras, fans, and reporters waiting outside. Nobody could see through the curtains. Nobody could confirm who was inside. And that was exactly the point. For months, rumors had chased this wedding across New York. Permits were watched. Hotel blocks were studied. Street closures were picked apart online like clues before a Super Bowl. Still, Taylor and Travis kept the real story locked down until the moment it was already happening. Then the signal came. Giant purple screens outside MSG lit up with a message that made the crowd explode. T&T married! A few blocks away, the Empire State Building glowed blue, almost like the entire city had been pulled into the celebration. Then, as if the night needed one more dramatic touch, rain started falling. Outside, fans stood in the heat and storm, hoping for one glimpse. Inside, a 20,000-seat arena had been transformed into something nobody expected. A secret garden built for two people whose love story had already crossed football, music, fame, and every corner of American culture. But the first real shock was not the venue, it was the guest list. This was not a small private ceremony, this was a 1,000-person summit of Hollywood, sports, music, and power. Tom Brady, Andy Reid, Steven Spielberg, Selena Gomez, Gigi Hadid, Bradley Cooper, Paul McCartney. The names kept coming until it stopped feeling like a wedding and started feeling like history. And yet, the most emotional moment belonged to Travis Kelce, the three-time Super Bowl champion who has taken hits from the toughest defenders in football. Because when the vows began, it was Travis who reportedly broke down. Before we go deeper, tell me where you're watching from. Comment your city right now. If you think this wedding was the biggest celebrity sports moment of the year, comment 1. If you think there is still a bigger secret hiding behind the scenes, comment 2. And make sure you subscribe, because this story only gets more unbelievable from here. The guest list that felt like a Super Bowl red carpet. The moment the SUVs started unloading, everyone outside Madison Square Garden knew this was bigger than a private wedding. It felt like the Oscars, the Grammys, and the Super Bowl had all been squeezed into one secret entrance in New York City. Every few minutes, another name appeared. Steven Spielberg walked in like the night had suddenly become a Hollywood premiere. Tom Brady arrived, bringing the weight of NFL history with him. Andy Reid, the coach who helped shape Travis Kelce's legendary career in Kansas City, was there too. That detail mattered. This was not just Taylor's world swallowing Travis's world. This was both kingdoms meeting at the same altar. Gigi Hadid and Bradley Cooper arrived together. Selena Gomez stepped in wearing a golden beaded gown that fans immediately connected to her own wedding memories with Taylor. Chris Rock, Hugh Grant, Jennifer Lopez, Ed Sheeran, Jimmy Fallon, Ethan Hawke, Gwen Stefani, Benson Boone, Jason Sudeikis, Abby Wambach, Cooper Kupp, Roger Goodell, Joe Buck, and Jenny Han were all part of the scene. At some point, the guest list stopped feeling like a list and started feeling like a statement. This wedding was telling the world something without saying it out loud. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were not just two celebrities getting married. They had become the rare couple capable of pulling music legends, NFL icons, Hollywood giants, comedians, athletes, executives, and longtime friends into the same room. But with all those stars inside, one choice shocked people more than almost anything else. The person standing up front to marry them was not a judge, not a religious figure, and not some polished celebrity officiant brought in for a headline. It was Adam Sandler. That one detail turned the room upside down. Sandler was not just there to make people laugh. He had a real connection to Travis, including Kelce's cameo in Happy Gilmore too. And he had spoken warmly about the couple before. Guests later described his role as emotional, funny, sincere, and surprisingly powerful. He did not just read lines, he carried the room, and that is when the mood shifted. What looked from the outside like a billion-dollar spectacle suddenly became intimate. Behind the curtains, behind the famous faces, behind the security and secrecy, the room went quiet. Because Taylor and Travis were about to say vows unlike anything guests expected. Travis Kelce's tears changed the whole room. Everyone expected Taylor Swift's vows to be emotional. She has built a career turning life into language, pain into poetry, and love into moments millions of people feel personally. But what nobody inside Madison Square Garden expected was that Travis Kelce would be the one who seemed most overwhelmed. This is the same Travis Kelce who has played in front of 70,000 screaming fans, the same tight end who has stood in Super Bowl pressure, taken violent hits, celebrated championships, and handled years of NFL chaos with a grin. But standing in front of Taylor, his family, her family, and 1,000 witnesses, the armor came off. Guests reportedly said the couple's vows were not short, polished lines written for cameras. They were long, personal, and deeply emotional. Instead of the typical 1 or 2 minutes, the vows reportedly stretched close to 20 minutes each. That alone stunned the room. 20 minutes from Taylor, 20 minutes from Travis. Not a performance, not a press moment, not a social media clip. A full emotional exchange in front of some of the most famous people on the planet. The embroidered handkerchiefs handed to guests suddenly made sense. They were not just decorative. They were needed. And then came another detail that sent fans into overdrive. Taylor reportedly sang a little during her vows. Nobody outside the room knows exactly what she sang. No lyrics leaked, no video surfaced, no clean recording escaped the no-phone policy. But that mystery only made it more powerful. The idea that Taylor chose to sing not for a stadium, not for an album, not for a tour, but for Travis in that private moment became one of the most talked about parts of the night. Still, the image people could not stop repeating was Travis crying. Not because it made him look weak, but because it made the whole story feel real. In a wedding surrounded by money, fame, security, and spectacle, the most unforgettable thing was a football player who could not hold back his emotions. For NFL fans, that moment hit differently. They have seen Travis dominate games. They have seen him celebrate touchdowns. They have watched him become one of the most recognizable athletes in America. But this was not about football. This was about a man reaching the biggest personal moment of his life and realizing there was no crowd noise loud enough to hide what he felt. That was the moment the wedding stopped being a headline and became human. The secret garden inside the world's most famous arena. Before guests even reached their seats, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce made them walk through a story. Not a hallway, not a standard wedding entrance, a timeline. Inside Madison Square Garden, the couple had created a tunnel filled with photos from different stages of their lives. Childhood pictures, career moments, personal snapshots, images showing who they were before the fame, before the stadiums, before the headlines, before the world started treating their relationship like a national event. Guests moved through that tunnel before entering what was described as a secret garden. And that detail became one of the most powerful symbols of the entire wedding. Madison Square Garden is usually loud. It is basketball, boxing, concerts, roaring crowds, bright lights, pressure, movement, noise. But for one night, it became something softer and stranger. An indoor garden built in the middle of New York for a couple whose relationship had played out under impossible public attention. That contrast is what made the design unforgettable. A sports and entertainment arena transformed into a private world. A 20,000-seat venue turned into a romantic installation, a place known for public spectacle rebuilt for emotional privacy. And privacy was clearly the mission. Guests had to give up their phones before entering. That meant no live posts, no instant videos, no leaked clips from the ceremony, no celebrity selfies from the altar. In today's world, that alone is almost impossible. But Taylor and Travis managed to create a room full of famous people where the internet could not get in. That is why the details came out slowly. One guest comment here, one deleted post there, a photo after the fact, a tiny description from someone who had been inside. Every piece felt like a secret being smuggled out. The no-phone rule changed the energy of the wedding. Instead of performing for the outside world, guests had to actually be present. They had to watch Travis cry without reaching for a camera. They had to hear Taylor sing during her vows without thinking about posting it. They had to experience the moment instead of turning it into content. For a couple whose entire relationship had been dissected by fans, media, commentators, sports shows, and pop culture debates, that choice mattered. It was a boundary. And in the middle of all that fame, the wedding's biggest message was not about celebrity. It was about control. Taylor and Travis let the world know only what they wanted the world to know, when they wanted it known. The wedding party twist nobody predicted. For months, fans and online predictors tried to guess every detail of the wedding. Who would stand beside Taylor? Who would stand beside Travis? Would Patrick Mahomes be a groomsman? Would Selena Gomez be part of the bridal side? Would Abigail Anderson Berard be maid of honor? Would the altar become a full lineup of celebrity friends and NFL stars? Then the wedding happened. And the couple threw almost all of those expectations out the window. There were no bridesmaids, no groomsmen, No massive celebrity wedding party. No carefully arranged group of famous faces standing beside them for the perfect photo. Instead, the two most important supporting roles went to family. Austin Swift stood beside Taylor as her man of honor. Jason Kelce stood beside Travis as his best man. That was it. For a wedding with 1,000 guests, that choice was almost shocking in its simplicity. In a room packed with icons, the couple chose brothers over celebrity pageantry. It was one of the clearest emotional decisions of the entire night. For Travis, having Jason there carried deep meaning. Jason Kelce is not just his brother, he is part of Travis's football story, his personal story, and one of the few people who truly understands what it means to live under the pressure of the NFL spotlight. Jason has been beside him through fame, family, championships, criticism, and change. So when Travis stood there in front of Taylor, it made sense that Jason was the one beside him. For Taylor, Austin's role had the same emotional weight. Through every era of her life and career, Austin has been family first. Not industry, not image, not brand. Having him as man of honor turned the moment away from spectacle and back toward roots. That decision reframed the entire wedding. Yes, the guest list was massive. Yes, the venue was legendary. Yes, the world was watching. But at the altar, Taylor and Travis kept the core small. It was a reminder that the real center of the night was not fame. It was trust. People expected an A-list lineup. They got two siblings. People expected tradition. They got something more personal. And maybe that is why this twist hit so hard. In a wedding that could have easily become a celebrity parade, the couple made one of the most public rooms in America feel like a family circle. That was not an accident. That was a message. When the reception became a private concert, if the ceremony was quiet, emotional, and tightly guarded, the reception was the moment Madison Square Garden remembered what kind of building it was. After the vows, the room shifted, the energy changed. The secret garden became a stage, and then Paul McCartney walked out. For most weddings, having a live band is enough. For Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, one of the most famous musicians in modern history reportedly performed for the newlyweds inside one of the most famous arenas in the world. Then came Stevie Nicks, then Tim McGraw. The lineup sounded less like a wedding reception and more like a once-in-a-lifetime private concert. Think about the symbolism. Taylor, who has spent years turning personal moments into music, chose not to dominate the reception stage herself. Instead, legends performed around her and Travis. A Beatle, a Fleetwood Mac icon, a country star connected to the early mythology of Taylor's career. It felt carefully chosen, not random. And for Travis, the football connection was impossible to ignore. Madison Square Garden has hosted historic sporting events, championship moments, and pressure-packed nights. But this time, the arena's biggest moment was not a game. It was a celebration of a tight end from the NFL and a global music superstar standing at the center of a world that somehow belonged to both of them. The reception also had one detail nobody saw coming: games and raffle tickets. Guests reportedly played party games for chances to win major prizes, including designer bags and a 1,970 Chevrolet Chevelle, a sentimental nod to the kind of car tied to Taylor and Travis's early public dating story. That image is almost unreal. 1,000 famous people, athletes, actors, musicians, executives, and friends playing wedding games for raffle tickets inside Madison Square Garden. It made the night feel strangely playful after such an emotional ceremony. Yes, the wedding was expensive. Yes, it was secretive. Yes, the guest list was almost impossible to believe. But the couple still built in moments that felt personal and fun. Of course, not every part of the reception sounded perfect. Some guests reportedly noticed long food lines and crowded stations, even with all the money and planning behind the event. That detail became its own little controversy, because people expect a wedding at that level to run flawlessly. But maybe that imperfection made the night more real. Even a wedding built like a production still had human chaos. Even inside a multi-million-dollar celebration, people still had to wait for dinner. The rehearsal dinner secret fans could not stop talking about. The wedding night was not the only chapter of the story. The night before, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce reportedly gave guests a moment that sounded smaller, more intimate, and in some ways even more surprising. At the rehearsal dinner, the couple performed together. Not for a stadium, not for a tour, not for a broadcast, just for the people closest enough to be in the room before everything became official. According to guests, Taylor and Travis sang their favorite rock song together in front of roughly 100 people. That detail became one of the most debated parts of the weekend, because during the actual wedding reception, Taylor did not take over the stage. She let Paul McCartney, Stevie Nicks, and Tim McGraw become the musical center of the night. But the evening before, away from the bigger crowd and heavier spotlight, she performed with Travis. That choice says a lot. The rehearsal dinner sounded like the private version of the wedding. The next night was the grand production. Madison Square Garden, 1,000 guests, legends on stage, heavy security, a no-phone policy, and a city watching from outside. But the rehearsal dinner was more personal. Smaller room, smaller audience. A couple singing together before stepping into the biggest public-private event of their lives. Fans immediately started trying to imagine the scene. Travis, the NFL star known for confidence and charisma, standing beside Taylor in front of family and friends. Taylor, one of the most successful performers on earth, not singing alone, but sharing the moment with the man she was about to marry. It was not about vocal perfection or spectacle. It was about connection. That is why the contrast mattered. Taylor sang a little during her vows at the ceremony. She performed with Travis at the rehearsal dinner. But at the reception, she stepped back. For someone who could command any stage in the world, that restraint was powerful. It made the weekend feel structured like a story. The rehearsal dinner gave guests the private duet. The ceremony gave them the emotional vows. The reception gave them the legendary performers. Each phase had its own surprise. Each moment was protected by secrecy. And each detail only became more dramatic once it leaked out days later. By the time photos and guest comments started appearing, fans were no longer just reacting to one wedding. They were piecing together a 3-act production, and every act seemed designed to reveal a different side of Taylor and Travis. The online frenzy turned the wedding into a market. While guests were celebrating inside Madison Square Garden, another storm was happening online. Not just fan theories, not just celebrity gossip. Actual money was moving around the wedding. Prediction markets had turned the event into a strange kind of scoreboard. People were not only guessing the venue, the dress designer, the guest list, and the wedding party. They were putting money behind those guesses. That part of the story became both fascinating and uncomfortable. On one side, it showed the massive cultural power of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Their wedding was so closely watched that strangers believed they could study clues, read reports, follow permits, track rumors, and predict private decisions with real accuracy. On the other side, it showed how far celebrity obsession can go when personal milestones become financial entertainment. Some predictions were right. Madison Square Garden became the venue after months of speculation. Dior reportedly became part of the wedding fashion conversation. Jason Kelce, being Travis's best man, made sense and lined up with what many expected. But then came the misses. The biggest one was the wedding party. Many people assumed there would be bridesmaids, groomsmen, and a full celebrity lineup. Instead, Taylor and Travis chose no traditional wedding party at all, only Austin Swift and Jason Kelce in the key family roles. That single decision wiped out a lot of outside assumptions, and maybe that is the most interesting part. The crowd could guess the building. It could guess some of the fashion. It could guess certain obvious family roles. But it could not fully predict the emotional choices. It could not understand what the couple would value most once the cameras were gone and the vows began. That gap between public prediction and private meaning is the heart of the story. The wedding became a reminder that fans can study every clue and still miss the point. They can track every SUV, every permit, every rumor, every hotel booking, every possible guest, but they cannot stand inside the couple's actual relationship. They cannot know which details matter most behind closed doors. For NFL fans, there is an easy comparison. You can study every statistic before a game, every matchup, every injury report, every coaching trend. But once the game starts, emotion, pressure, and human decisions change everything. That is what happened here. The world tried to predict Taylor and Travis like a betting line. But the night's biggest moments were not numbers. They were tears, family, songs, silence, and choices nobody outside the room could control. The morning after and the story that would not die. By Saturday morning, the crowds outside Madison Square Garden had started to thin, but the story was only getting bigger. That is the strange thing about a wedding this secretive. The night itself ended, but the mystery kept expanding. Guests left in the early hours. Stars slipped out after midnight. Fans stayed nearby, hoping for one last glimpse. Reporters waited for confirmation. Online communities refreshed feeds, searching for any photo, any quote, any tiny piece of proof from inside the most locked-down celebrity sports wedding in recent memory. Then the details started appearing. A photo here, a guest comment there, a deleted post, a description of the secret garden, a glimpse of Taylor and Travis walking hand in hand. A mention of embroidered handkerchiefs, a report that Travis cried harder than expected, a story about Taylor singing during her vows, a note about Austin Swift and Jason Kelce standing beside them instead of a full wedding party. Each detail landed like a new episode, and that slow reveal made the wedding feel even bigger. If everything had been posted live, the internet might have consumed it in one night and moved on, but because the couple blocked phones and controlled access, every new detail felt valuable. Every leak felt like a missing piece. Fans also searched for symbolism. Taylor's connection to the number 13 came back into the conversation. People looked at dates, timing, colors, storms, announcements, and hidden meanings. Whether those theories were real or just fandom imagination, they showed how deeply people wanted this wedding to mean something beyond the obvious. Nearby businesses reportedly tried to join the moment too. Celebrities who were not even inside the room posted reactions. Sports shows, entertainment outlets, fan accounts, and pop culture commentators all treated the wedding like a national event. But underneath all the noise, the most lasting images were simple. Travis Kelce, emotional during his vows. Taylor Swift singing not for millions, but for one person. Jason and Austin standing beside their sibling. Legendary musicians performing in a garden built inside an arena. Guests waiting in food lines despite the luxury. Fans standing outside in the rain just to be near the moment. That mixture is why the story would not die. It had everything. Fame, football, music, secrecy, money, romance, surprise, and just enough imperfection to make it believable. For Travis, this was more than a celebrity marriage. It was the moment his NFL life and personal life collided on the biggest possible stage. For Taylor, it was another chapter in a life where private emotion almost always becomes public mythology. And for everyone watching from outside, one truth became clear. The world may never know every detail of what happened inside Madison Square Garden, but the pieces that did escape were enough to make this wedding feel like one of the biggest pop culture and sports moments of the decade. What Taylor and Travis really proved? When the lights finally dimmed inside Madison Square Garden, the biggest story was not the guest list, the secret garden, the legends on stage, or even the fans waiting outside in the rain. The real story was what Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce managed to prove in a world that tries to turn every private moment into public property. They proved that even under the brightest spotlight in America, control still matters. Every detail of this wedding was designed with intention. The hidden entrances, the no-phone policy, the family-only wedding party, the emotional vows, the private music, the carefully protected ceremony, none of it felt accidental. It was strategy, but not the cold kind. It was a strategy built around protecting something personal. For Travis, the lesson is powerful. NFL stars spend their careers being measured by performance, toughness, contracts, rings, and legacy. But on this night, his strongest moment was not athletic. It was emotional. He showed that strength is not only about standing tall under pressure. Sometimes it is about letting the people closest to you see exactly what you feel. For Taylor, the night showed something equally important. She has built one of the most public careers in entertainment history, but she still found a way to create a private center inside a public storm. She did not need to turn the wedding into a live stream. She did not need to give the internet every angle. She let mystery do what oversharing never could. Make the moment feel sacred. Strategically, this wedding was a masterclass in modern fame. The couple allowed enough details to make the world talk, but not enough for the world to own the memory. They gave fans a story, but kept the soul of it for themselves. That balance is almost impossible now. And that is why this event felt bigger than a normal celebrity wedding. There is also a lesson for the fans, the media, and everyone watching from the outside. Admiration is normal. Curiosity is normal. But people, even famous people, deserve boundaries. Behind every viral headline is a real family, a real relationship, and real emotions that do not exist only for public entertainment. And maybe that is the most human part of the entire story. In a room full of stars, the most unforgettable images were simple. Two brothers standing beside their siblings, guests wiping away tears, a football champion breaking down during his vows, and a global superstar choosing privacy over performance. Whether you follow the NFL, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, or just the drama of American pop culture, this wedding gave everyone something to talk about, but it also gave everyone something to think about. Fame can be loud, but love does not always have to be. A relationship can inspire millions without surrendering every private detail. And even in a world obsessed with access, some doors are allowed to stay closed. So now the question becomes, what happens next? Will Travis step back into the NFL spotlight with a different kind of calm? Will Taylor's next chapter carry the emotional weight of this weekend? Will the world keep searching for hidden details from inside Madison Square Garden? Probably. But one thing is certain, this wedding did not just end a love story. It opened a new era. If you believe Taylor and Travis created one of the most unforgettable sports and entertainment moments of the decade, hit the like button. Share this video with someone who followed every rumor from the beginning. Subscribe to the channel for more NFL stories, player drama, celebrity crossovers, and behind-the-scenes moments that everyone will be talking about. And comment 1 if you think this wedding was a perfect power move, or comment 2 if you think the biggest secret from that night still has not been revealed.